federal government is picking on a medium-sized city in upstate New York. But I think what the federal government fails to remember is that we're the city of Frederick Douglass and Susan B. Anthony. So the nonsense and rhetoric that was being brought here today, I'm sure Mr. Holman will be getting ready to take that back to Washington soon. But we are very concerned about a lot of broad issues that we have here in our community, not just issues related to federal funding. Obviously is a topic that came up in this meeting that we had with over 40+ community leaders, many of them from the faith community, from the not-for-profit sector. And what we said is that we're going to stand in unity as a community to ensure that we work collectively to be able to move Rochester forward. And I want to thank the numerous community members that were here today, here at First Genesis Baptist Church, right here on Hudson Avenue, which is in the heart of our community. And we will be rolling out a series of actions in which we will be responding to the nonsense that we're getting from the federal government. What we are seeing is distraction, division, distortion, period. And after the dust clears, I, as mayor, along with two of our elected representatives are here who also attended the meeting, we got to stand and make sure that our community is still put together and that we have unity in our community. And I am so pleased that the people that actually live here, notice I said the people that actually live here, that pay bills here, that pays taxes here, that they are working to make sure that Rochester is going to be a stable community. And we will push back against any of the federal nonsense that we get. I know you might have questions about this lawsuit. Again, guess what? We still haven't been served with the law. Still haven't been served with the lawsuit. Haven't seen the actual filing yet. We went on the federal website to get it. But I want to be clear on something I said Friday, that we are going to vigorously defend this in court. Period. We believe in the 10th Amendment. And who would have ever thought that we'd be talking about cities having their rights infringed upon? And that's what the federal government is trying to do. But it's something that we're not going to be, it's something that we're not going to stand for. It's something that we're not going to tolerate. Okay, I got time for a little bit of questions, then I got to get back to work because I got a city to run, because we got residents that actually depend on the work that we provide for them on a daily basis. Because the stuff that's happening today here in Rochester, this visit that's happening, I'm still not sure what that did to increase the stock market, bring down prices, handle the opioid epidemic, end the war in Ukraine. None of this stuff has stopped any of that. And this is about people, not politics. This conversation goes so far beyond politics. It's about people. It's about the citizens of Rochester. And I want the residents of Rochester to know that we are fighting on your behalf, despite all of the division, distraction, and distortion that we're seeing coming from the federal government. Rochester deserves better, and America deserves better. All right, any questions that people might have?
Mayor, can you speak to any concerns you might have about the differing messages that are being sent to your rank-and-file officers when you have Holman coming in saying they did nothing wrong and this policy is unlawful?
No, but right now the head of the police department is the Rochester Police Chief, David Smith. The message, he will continue to reinforce his message. Period. Next question. Any comment on Trump's executive order that threatens to pull funding from sanctuary cities? Yeah, I think that we're very happy about is the injunction that was just released on Thursday. Thursday there was an injunction, that a bunch of cities were a part of that challenged the attempt to pull money from cities. That injunction was held up in court, and I believe the judge said, "Oh, here we go again. Don't do it again." So, but we're always concerned. We're always concerned with distraction, distortion, and division. So we're always concerned about it. But we will fight. We will fight it out in the court of law if any of those attempts are made.
Looking back, is there anything that the city or the police department would have done differently in the public eye when originally talking about this stall? Not doing the press conference, just keeping it internally. Anything different you would have done?
Again, I think that we've been very clear on, the chief has been very clear on his message. I think I've been clear on our message. Our message is that we don't need distraction, distortion, and division in our community. And that's what this is all about, period. That's what this is about. What does this have to do with public safety or prices or people who can't afford to pay for insulin? All that we are seeing are division and divisiveness. And we need unity in our community. And that's what the number one message needs to be, period. And that's what we're standing for, because you know what? When people want to come here for politics, that suits them, because guess what? They don't live here. They never heard of Hudson Avenue. And they probably don't even know where Lau Avenue is. And couldn't get around this community without a GPS. So my concern are my constituents and the residents of Rochester, because you know what? They have to live with the fallout of decisions that breed division and deception, and we need to reject that as a community. Any other questions?
Mayor, can you put in context some of the impact that you are seeing? You met with all these leaders today.
Yeah, I think that one of the big impacts that we're seeing is proposals to cut programs like Head Start. Are you kidding me? A bipartisan program that has been in communities since the 60s. One things that people, regardless of your political stripe, can agree on. Food programs. Food programs. For people in rural areas as well as in urban areas. The impacts are stark. And even just the threat are having a chilling effect across communities and organizations. It's hurting morale in organizations. Catholic Family Center has a refugee resettlement community. That Rochester is one of the largest refugee resettlement communities in the country. Maybe even in the world per capita in Rochester, where we have people who have been great patriots of our city, who have started jobs, started businesses, and now that's being rolled back. So we have heard the gamut of things that are affecting community-based organizations in our community, and they have had enough. You see, the folks that are here have had enough. And this is only a small contingent of the folks that were here. So they've had enough in our community. But what they've also said is that they're willing to stand up for our community when the federal government, that is supposed to have a constitutional right to protect the citizens in the states, are failing in that role and have turned everything into a political sideshow. And Rochesterians have rejected that, and they will continue to reject that. And these individuals here are saying that they're going to reject it as well, and that they're going to stand up for the broader community to make sure that we move Rochester forward in a way that's going to make sure that everybody, regardless of who you are or how much money you make, has a voice in our community.
Do you have any examples of something that you think will work?
Well, I think one of the important things that will work is obviously the legal avenue, period. We know about Martin Luther King, but we also know about Thurgood Marshall, don't we? We still have the rule of law in this country, although it's being eroded every day. And that's the hypocrisy that I just can't stand. That you have people that stand up to say that they believe in the rule of law, but they're not following the rule of law.
What about the people who are afraid of being arrested? That are probably here legally, but because of all the nonsense going on?
I think that this is why we have to send the message to let them know that they still have their rights, and that we have their backs, and that they should not be afraid. But I think anybody, there's regular, everyday Americans now that are afraid to be arrested. Because the rule of law is something that has been applied unevenly and in a way that is not consistent with the founders and framers of the Constitution meant. And that should concern all of us. And that's one of the reasons why we gather here at a church as well, because there is a spiritual component to this, to make sure that our faith leaders also have our backs. Because if you don't have a spiritual foundation, now I'm speaking as a preacher's kid, you won't want to come out. But the way I was raised, there was a man named David, and David fought Goliath. And you know, all he had was a slingshot and some biscuits. But you know what we got here in Rochester? We got a lot of slingshots, and all of these slingshots, they represent thousands of people. In the federal government, they're Goliath, because they're picking on a medium-sized city in upstate New York. That's what bullies do. But I was raised in a family of 6. And the way you deal with a bully is that you don't retreat. You make sure that you punch back. And we're going to punch back. We're going to punch back. We'll punch back through the courts. We'll punch back through the community. We'll punch back through the legislative process. That's what we're going to do, and that's what we will continue to do. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. I appreciate it, and stay tuned. This group will continue to be meeting, and we'll be rolling out more of our activities as we continue to go forward. But this is Rochester coming together. We are stronger together as a community, and we are better than this as a country. Thank you.